Welcome to the East Central and South Africa Microsoft Excel webinar. So it's being hosted by Crisp Excel Training and Consulting. So we are consultants on advanced Excel, HR analytics, and Office 365 Power Platform. So these are our partners in Kenya and outside Kenya. So today we are honored to have Danielle Stein, Microsoft MVP and a guru in financial modeling. Please follow her on LinkedIn. I will send you this PowerPoint. And please buy her books. I've gone through her course, which is mind-blowing. Maybe after this, everyone can go and look at the course. The books are awesome also. So today we are going to do financial modeling best practices. Yeah, so welcome, Danielle.
Great, thank you. Fantastic. I will just share my screen. So let me just share. So you should be able, let me see. There we go. So you should be able to see my screen now. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay, all right. So yeah, welcome everyone. My name is Danielle Stein-Fairhurst. As Chris says, I am based in Sydney in Australia. So my topic today is best practice financial modelling. So a little bit about me. Like Chris, I'm a Microsoft MVP, but my specialisation is financial modelling, which is the use of Excel. I do meetups, so we have a Sydney-based meetup, and we do those virtually as well. So I do run online meetups as well. I run a Women in Financial Modelling group, which is we meet virtually. I'm also a master financial modeller with the Financial Modelling Institute, and as I said, I've written a couple of books about financial modelling. So what I'd like to cover today, a couple of topics. We'll talk about financial modelling fundamentals first of all, so like what financial modelling is, and why you should be considering a career in financial modelling, and then we'll talk about the skills and then get into some of the best practice. So let's start with that. I'd like to get a bit of an idea of who we've got on the call. So I just want to get an idea of what, if you could just use a QR, I've got a QR code there, or you can go to slido.com and then just put in the code. And I'm interested to know what people's definition of financial modelling is. So I wanted to get an idea. So it's actually a free text field. So if you go into that QR code, go into that, and hopefully, can you guys see my screen now? If it pops up, you should be able to see the Slido. Can you see the Slido? Hang on, let me just share. I've got a feeling I have to reshare. A sec. So I'll just share that one. There we go. So I can't see anybody joining yet. So if you could just go to either use your QR code or go to slido.com and let me know what your definition of a financial model is. Is that working? Does that, Chris, can you see that?
Yes, I'm trying to use the QR code.
Okay. This will be interesting to see what people's definition of a financial model is. If it's not working, don't worry, we can just move on. Or so yeah, financial analysis, cool. So one person said, we've got somebody else typing. Yeah, and then I'll be interesting to see what you guys think. The art of presenting data. Yeah, it can be cool. Let's do the second poll. So I just want to see what is your experience with financial modelling? So interesting to see whether anyone has done any modelling before or if you are completely brand new to it. So never done any modeling. Okay. Oh, all right. Great. Interesting. All right. So I'll assume, right. Okay. That's cool. I will assume that people are brand new to financial modeling. That's great. Just wanted to get a bit of an idea there. So I'm just going to share my screen again, and this definition of financial modeling. Can you see that?
Yes.
Is that working okay? Yeah, great.
Yes, yes.
So, yeah, some people said it was financial analysis or presentation of data. Basically, you know, the reason I love financial modeling is that it's so completely interconnected. So, I mean, it is a spreadsheet. Like, would you perhaps define it as, you know, just perhaps it's just a spreadsheet, but it is a lot more than that. It is typically a tool built in Excel that displays possible solutions to a real world problem. So you've got a problem and you build a spreadsheet to solve that problem. So that's really the definition of a model. But the interconnectedness, just like the picture that we see here, that is what I love about financial modeling. So you've got one cell is over here, you've got one cell over here, and you make a change, and the change just flows throughout your model, and that's one of the things that I really love about financial modeling. So what do you guys, have you done, what about you guys, have you done any modeling? Has anyone kind of had any experience with modeling? So feel free to jump that, pop it in the chat, or just unmute yourself. What about you, Crispo? Have you done any modeling at all? Would you consider yourself a modeler?
If it's about creating solutions that interconnected works, then I've done. I thought actually I thought financial modeling is something totally different thing, but I mean, if that is what is called financial modeling, then I've done it.
yeah. I mean, it can't just be like a list of like data. That's not a financial model. As long as you have formulas, you know, if you have like an input and you're changing like the price, and then you can see all the calculations are changing, that's a model basically. And if it's for the purpose of finance, it's a financial model. I mean, technically a financial model would be a P&L, a cash flow, and a balance sheet, but not always. It doesn't contain all of that. Very often we, you know, and it is just such a fantastic skill to have, and it's very much in demand, definitely at the moment. So yeah, I just wanted to kind of get that definition down first of all, and then talk about the skills that you need for financial modeling. So, I mean, number one is Excel skills. Like, it's really hard to be a modeler if you haven't got really good Excel skills. But that's probably you know, the number one thing that you need to build a model. But it's also the easiest thing to learn. So, you know, you can learn it from Crispo, you can learn it from lots of MVPs or different courses that you can do, but you do need to understand the industry. So a model is, you know, where you've got like inputs about this or that or the other, you know, something like what's your inflation amount, or what's your escalation, what's your costings, you know, understanding the industry. That's, you know, that's probably the thing that I find really hard, is the industry knowledge, because I know a little bit about lots of different, so I'm a financial modeling specialist and I work with lots of different industries, and so I think it's important to know the industry. Next is accounting and finance knowledge. So you do need to know like what a profit and loss statement looks like, you know, that sort of thing, you know, like finance. Having a bit of a finance background definitely helps. You don't have to be an accountant, but to at least have a bit of financial background for sure. Business knowledge, you know, understanding the business, like, is that a good investment? That sort of thing is important. And then also design skills. You know, it's actually laying it out, like designing the model, making sure that it's logical, that people can flow and understand. Like, there's nothing worse than opening up somebody's file and it's a big mess and you can't understand it. So having good design skills is important, making it look good. People trust your numbers if you use formatting. So if it looks professional, you know, if you make it look nice, we'll have a look at some, actually, let me just demonstrate now. I've got some files that I will share with you. But for example, here, you know, having something here, which is, you know, having your labels there and maybe using some styles just to make it look nice, you know, making it look attractive, and having it kind of laid out in blocks and logical kind of design is really important. So that's kind of the design skills. Communication and language skills, that is something that we sometimes find difficult, because as Excel people or modelers, we like to hide away in our offices and talk to our Excel formulas. We don't want to talk to people. So I know you laugh, but it's true. Like, we are often quite sort of quite, you know, people that like to just, you know, work on very deep problems, and having to actually get information out of people, actually communicating, like, or you know, getting them to understand the results of your model, you know, that's important as well. And language, you know, being able to articulate the results of your model, you know, that's important. You know, like, for example, if I look at this, you know, if I look at that and I go, yeah, like, that's my model, and then to try to understand to people, you know, to not just say, hey, this is the result of my model, boom, like that. It's not going to tell you very much. But being able to communicate that, you know, according to my financial model, if you have an input, a cost of capital of 8%, understanding what the cost of capital is, how to calculate that, is like finance background, and then being able to explain to someone what that means. So if you have this cash flow and you have a cost of capital, so if it costs us 8% to be in business, this is what your NPV would be. This is your net present value, and this is how you calculated it. So rather than just dumping and like giving them the numbers, to give them a chart, and then maybe to be able to explain it to them as well. So that's sort of good communication skills. Numeracy skills, of course, you know, just being a very numerate person is a good one. It's important. And lastly, being able to think logically, you know, so this plus this, and then we come up with this calculation and this calculation and that sort of thing. So those are the skills that you need to be a financial modeler. It's not just the Excel skills, but the Excel skills is really important. So there's no point in, you know, you can't say you're a modeler if you haven't got good Excel skills, but you need more than that. You need more, all of these other skills that come into it. So the majority of today, the session that we've got, and you feel free to stop me, Chris, if we run out of time. I don't know whether, do you want to go right the way through until the hour, or can we spend a little bit longer? So
we can extend.
Okay, great. Okay, cool. So I will keep going. So just stop me if I go on too long. So I want to talk about financial modeling best practice, because that, I think, is really important. In fact, each of the books that I've written, I've actually got a whole chapter on financial modeling best practice, and I actually have a course, a free course based on financial modeling best practice. And I will, I might just pop it in the chat. Let me just pop it there. 7-day. There you go. So that's the link to it. So that actually takes you through. It's free. It takes you through all of the points of best practice. So feel free to jump on there. These are the 6 points of financial modeling best practice that I wanted to go through with you today. So assumptions, consistency, linking, only entering it once, error checks, formatting and labeling. So let's go through each of those. So number 1, documentation of assumptions. So there is no point in having a beautiful financial model if you don't explain what the assumptions are. It's garbage in and garbage out. So documentation is absolutely critical, and don't leave it to the end. You know, I know a lot of people build the model and then they go, oh, what are the assumptions? And they go, oh, I don't know, like documentation. I know that's not the sexy part of modeling, but you do need to list it out, all of the detail, because that will help the user or someone who is trying to use your model, and it can also help you later on when you're trying to understand. So often I open up a model that I worked on 6 months ago and I can't remember what I did or why I did it. So that's why it's important to document those assumptions and list those assumptions onto a separate page in more detail, the better, for sure. So using consistency of formulas, so having one single formula all the way across and all the way down the block of data. So that is really, really important. So I just wanted to explain how to do this. If I go back to this first one here. So this is a really common thing. So let's say, let me just build this formula for you. You just remove these shortcuts, control down, control right arrow, control down, and remove the referencing. So I just wanted to explain how this works. I can, shall I pop this in the chat, Crispo? I don't know if people want to follow along, or I can certainly make this available afterwards for people who are watching.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea, so that when somebody is, because I'm recording, when they are watching again, they can go along slowly.
Yeah. So for those who are live on the call, if you want to just try something in Excel, you can just create like a little square like this. And I'm sure you guys have done this before, but if you wanted to like multiply 250 by 7.5% like that, that will give you the correct answer. But very often, you know, you might have 1,000 rows and like 12 months or 60 months across the thing, and you want to have one single formula, but you don't want to have to go like this, you know, like that, this, you know, go like that. Yeah, it's going to take you forever. So it's much better practice to use your F4 shortcut. I'll just write that one down, the F4 shortcut. So if you haven't used your F4 shortcut, equals left arrow F4. So if you're using a laptop, it might be function F4, but F4 is going to put in your, let me just write that down. That's going to put in your $sign. So we'll go equals left arrow F4. So hit your F4 a couple of times. You guys, you've done this before, yeah, Chris, but you would have been familiar with using the $signs. Yeah. And then, but people perhaps don't realize how important it is for modeling, for best practice, to have consistent formulas. So it is so important to have just one single formula. How do you copy? What's your favorite way? Like if you had to copy across and down, like what's your favorite shortcuts, Crispo, or anyone else? What shortcuts do you use? Copy that across now. What do you got? What do you guys use?
I just drag it.
Drag, yeah, it's a drag.
Yeah,
like that. And then double click.
Yes,
like
then you double click.
Drag down. Yeah. Control Z is my favorite shortcut. Or Control C, Shift arrow down. I mean, we try not to use the mouse. You know, for any use of Excel, if you're using Excel for a long period of time, to go mouse keyboard like that is going to be quite wearing on your body. So we'll try to use as many keyboard shortcuts as we can. So you can Control C, Control V, or if you just Shift arrow, Control R. Oops, I need to get my $signs right. Equals. You can use your F4. I think I used the undo too many times. So you can Control C, Enter, or you can Shift arrow, Control R, and Control D. So that's another shortcut. So Control right or Control down, and that's going to put in your that will copy right or copy down. So there's a few. Yeah, feel free to jump in with any other shortcuts you've got, Crispo. I'm sure you've got plenty of them. So,
I'm actually not a fan of shortcuts. You may be surprised.
Oh, you don't use
I only have no. I use very few shortcuts. Control 1, Control H,
yeah. Oh
Control
yeah.
Z, which is the favorite.
Control Z, yeah. So Control 1, yeah, to bring up your
Yeah, also
your
format cells.
formatting. What was the
Yeah,
other one? Control H, did you say? Find and
yeah.
replace.
Mm,
Yeah, that's a good one.
mm.
Yeah, so I guess, I mean, they're not, I mean, nobody will know when you're looking at the model what shortcuts you used. But if you're spending a lot of time in Excel, and certainly with financial modeling, like I had terrible RSI when I first started modeling because I just used to just spend too long on the key and using the laptop, you know, with using the little scroll thing
Yeah,
is just really difficult. Yeah. So I
so
try to use my shortcuts as much as I can. But yeah, so that's number one, like putting consistent formulas, and that's really just going to save you time, but it will also, it's just easier for someone who's auditing the model. So if someone is checking the model, like they only have to look at one formula. So that is counted as just one single formula. And it's just going to be so much easier to audit. So that's like really, really important, is trying to make your model consistent as much as possible. And it's not always practical, but trying to just have one formula all the way across. And then, of course, dynamic arrays. What is your position on dynamic arrays, Crispo? Are you using them very much?
they are lifesaver.
Yeah,
I think
you
it's the
use them.
best thing since power query. I think they are the next best thing ever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if anyone hasn't seen dynamic arrays before, you would go like that. You'd use the whole lot multiplied by the whole lot. And that is, the formatting doesn't work very well though on dynamic arrays. But yeah, they're such a lifesaver. You know, just it's so much quicker for what we were trying to do there. So rather than having to worry about where your dollar signs go, you can just have one single formula going across. And that's actually, did you see, Crispo, I'm going to the Global Excel Summit in a couple of weeks. So I'm going to talk about dynamic arrays because I think they're
Okay.
so important for financial modeling. Yeah,
Okay.
they're such a game changer. So,
Yeah, they are.
yeah.
They are. Yeah.
Yeah.
But now the problem is that you have to have Office 365 subscription.
Of course. Yes,
Yeah.
that's true. That's true. Yeah. I forgot to mention that. So yeah, if you don't have 365, then you would have to use your dollar signs. I still think it's important to understand where the dollar signs go because some people are not using 365, or sometimes it's just not always practical to use dynamic arrays because yeah. So one of the things about dynamic arrays actually is like if you're going to use a sum, so you need to use a hash. So that's one other thing to remember about dynamic arrays. So if you were to refer to the entire range, it will use a hash at the end. That's completely brand new. So I'm sure you guys have had training on dynamic arrays already, but that's quite new in Excel. So it's very exciting. Yeah, so that's number one is consistent formulas. So having one block of data. It's not hard. It's not rocket science, but wherever, especially when you're building a financial model, like having to have one block of data, it's just having it consistent. So next point is having always linking, so not hard coding. So always having like one, like the point, as I said, the point of financial modeling is you change the inputs and the outputs change. And if you hard code, that doesn't happen. So always making sure that you are linking to the source, so linking to the file, having external links. Do you have any? What's your opinion on external links, Crispo? Have you? I know some people's like, no, you should never ever have external links. What do you do? You have
I'm in that group of never ever having an external link because I feel to some degree you lose control of what is out there. Yeah, somebody can go and mess up with your other workbook and it will take you years. And actually, that's what I wanted to ask you is, what if What if somebody had codes just a small part of your big
Mm.
model? If somebody comes in and then they just insert something somewhere in the middle of your model, how do you know that this cell is hard coded and the other one is and the others are linked?
Yeah, it's so annoying. So like if I just like say you've got something like this, and then
Yes.
I mean that's the great thing about dynamic arrays is that people can't
Yeah, you
edit.
can do. Yes, that's the beauty about them.
But let's say
But there,
here they decide, and they're going to add 500. Is
yes,
that what you mean? And you can't
yeah,
see it. It's
yeah,
just not there. So
yeah,
I mean, Excel's trying to be helpful. Like they put in a little green thing in the corner that can show. But yeah, you may not see that if that doesn't come up. You might not realize it's there, and then
yeah.
you go in and you update your model, and you think that everything's fine.
Everything is yeah,
It's I think to me the easiest way to find that is to just show formulas. So
yeah,
that's your control, and then the little tilde.
yeah.
This little tilde thing is just next to the one. That's your shortcut to show formulas. Or you can go into formulas and go into show formulas just there. So that, to me, being able to show the formulas is probably the best way to find hard coding. But yeah, you really just want to like track it down and stop people from entering hard coded numbers into your models because it's just bad and it just means that your formulas are wrong. Is that your question?
Yes, yes,
Crispy?
yes, yes.
And what you're saying about having external links. So like if I had a new file like that and I go equals and then go back to my original one here, and so let's say that's my borrowing there, and I pulled that through to here, and you can see that's there. If I come back to here and insert, let's say I like innocently decide to insert an extra row, that's fine because it's going to update A3 to A4. But if your file is closed, if this file
That's
had
the
been
problem.
closed, yeah. Has that ever happened to you?
And many times. That's why I don't
Yeah,
like external
exactly.
things. Yeah,
Yeah. So what we recommend is that you use a named range
yeah,
instead. So if you were to use a name, like call that borrowing one, for example, enter, so that gives it a name. So then when I go over to here, and it's picking up the name. So it actually refers, instead of cell C4 or C3 or whatever it is, it's picking up the actual name of the cell. And that's just a smarter way. If you must have external links, then that's probably a better way to do it.
yeah.
Or with table names would work in the same way. So that's kind of what we say so trying not to have external links, but if you do want to link to external files, then you should use named ranges because that can cause problems. But try to have like internal links within the file, having and also the input variables should be in blue font or input styles. So that's a fairly sort of old-fashioned thing, but you probably would notice if you go over to here, so you can see this example here, you can tell that this one is an input. So this links through to here. So if you look at the links, if you go to trace dependence, you can see that that links to there. And we know that that's a variable because of the way that I formatted it. So I've used the styles to say that this is an input, or you can use this input style. I've used a slightly different color because I like that color, but I can change this and everything just flows throughout the model. And this is just an NPV formula that just picks up, discounts it back based on the cost of capital. So it will take, assumes that $12,500 is received at the end of year one, and it discounts it back by 8%. And the other thing I've done here, and I'll make this available to you if you haven't seen that one done before, is just using a text formula to just pick up the MPV amount. Because, you know, if you were to just go like this equals that ampersand that, so, you know, it's like using a concatenate or something like that, or concat or text join or one of those formulas, but using an ampersand to just string it together. But of course, because of all the decimal places, it doesn't really look very nice. So that's why we've used a text formula that's going to just format it so that it shows the formatting. And then what I've done here is just used a title of the chart, so that I've just added a chart title. Let me build that whole chart again. So like there, if I go insert, recommended charts is always nice. Here, like that, and then you can change the color, you know, or you can make it match your color scheme, you know, looking at the colors, you know, something like that. And then it's nice to make go into format data series and make the width. It's always nicer to just make it a little bit fatter. And it's always nice to, you know, make it look good. It's always good to show the numbers like that. If you do that, then you probably don't need to have the y-axis, so you can get rid of the y-axis. And then you can just take the label, go to the formula bar, equals A10, enter. And so that way your visual that you present, so this would be the output of your financial model, is going to be dynamic. So you don't want to have something changing and then the chart is out of date. So if we were to change that to 9%, there we go. So you can see that the numbers changed and the total MPV has changed as the title there. So that's an example of why it's important to link in a financial model. So just as another example, there is a corkscrew cash flow. So one of the financial statements that you might build as part of your financial model is having a cash flow, and a lot of our models are corkscrew. So you have your opening, you have your closing, you have your opening, and you have your closing. And so this would link down to here, and then that would form your opening balance. So that's a really common design in a financial model, which is an absolute nightmare trying to do that with dynamic arrays, which is can be quite hard to build. We have to end up using a lambda formula in order to do the cash at the end, which is quite hard. Otherwise, you end up with a circular reference. So that's an example of why linking is important in a financial model. So what we see the financing should be automatically calculated. We see some people go in and hard code the financing. So any hard coding is generally not a good idea. So just having that linked and automatically calculating is just much better practice. So I'll just check back in and see if there's any questions from anybody. We all good? All right. Everybody's okay. All right. So just moving on to number 4 point of best practice: never enter the same value twice. Now I know this sounds really, really silly, but very often you'll have an input, like let's say, for example, inflation, and you might enter that a couple of times in the model, and it's really easy to get redundant assumptions in a model, and we want to stop that from happening. So always try to clean up any extra assumptions. Use your trace dependence to see if something's looking at it. So always just enter the value once, and then refer to that one cell. So never use, and of course you would never use a hard-coded value within a formula. You should have a cell with 136,800 and then link to that, not type it in. And one of the things that we say is to avoid daisy chaining or spaghetti links. So that's when you link to a link that then links to a link right throughout the model. So an example of that would be this one here. So let's say here we've got, so you can see we've got head count, we've got salaries. We calculate our monthly cost. We have hard coding. Can you guys see that? Hard coding there. You've caught me out. Hard coding divided by 12. So we usually say that's okay. 12 months in a year. So we are taking an annual salary and we're converting that to monthly. So we say that is fine because 12 months is not a variable, not something that's likely to change, and therefore you can have 12 months. I'd say that's probably the only acceptable use of hard coding in a model.
I think if you are going to hard code the 12, then you need to protect that column, because somebody can come and put 11, come put 13. So you never know where is 12, where is 11, where is 13. So if you're going to use that 12, then you need to have that column be protected.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes we have, like, you could actually have it as a variable. So you could have 12 as a variable, we could call it variable there, and then we just say 12 divided by the variable. And so that's, that's that. And then if we decide, well, actually we want to show it annually, we would change that to a 1. And if we want to show it weekly, we change it to 52. So that's another way of, if you don't want to have hard coding. So that's another thing that you could do. But let me just turn that back to the way it was. Control Z, Control Z, Control Z. There we go. Control Z. There we go. All right. What I actually wanted to show you with this one was just the fact that we've got this is linking through to here. So we often have this kind of, like, most financial models have time series across the top. So they usually might go out for 12 months, whatever, or 24 months across, and then down as a block. So of course this is consistent formulas, one single formula all the way across, and I've used my dollar signs to do that. And here, this is linking to there, and then this one is linking to the original, because what we sometimes see is people go like that, they link to there, and that can cause problems because, I mean, it's working perfectly right now, but this is linking to that, and then that is linking to the original, because sometimes you might want to change something, you might get rid of this block here, and everything falls over. So we do not recommend doing it like that. So that's what I mean by daisy chaining or spaghetti links. So where you've got a link that links to a link that links to a link throughout the model is just a bad idea. So that's another point of best practice that you should avoid. So any questions about that one? Pretty good. All right. Cool. So the next one is error checks. So I can't tell you how many times an error check has saved my modeling. And I don't mean an error, I don't mean an if error, I'm not talking about an Excel error. I love Excel error. Excel errors are great because you can see that there's a problem. It's when you see a number that looks like it's right, but it's completely wrong. That is the problem, error check. So, and that's why you need an error check. So for example, on this one here, so let's say here, that's just a really simple error check. One cell minus the other. That is just a super, super simple error check. That's how I would recommend that you do an error check. It doesn't need to be complicated. What I'm talking about with the Excel error is when you have, like, let's say you've got, let me just go over to another example here, and you would say, let's say you've got your budget and you've got your actual, and you want to do your variance, and you've got like 548, you know, let's say you didn't have budget for this one, and then you have 500 for that, and if you're calculating your variance, you want to do like that, and then you want to do a variance percentage. So the variance percentage would be that divided by the budget, for example, and you end up with an Excel error. And I don't mind an Excel error. It's, you can see, oh yeah, that's a problem. You know, that's just because we don't have a budget in there. So you'd want to perhaps show like it's 100% over budget or something like that. So, you know, your issue, like, or the way to fix that, you could say if the budget is 0, or you could just use an if error. So that's you would say if it's an error, give me a 1. So that would be a way around the, and that's fine. I don't mind having an Excel error. It's having an error like this, where you know, somebody was to accidentally go in and add an extra like 500 to the cell. That is what I'm talking about with an error. And the error check, you can see, I can see that there is it's $500 out, so I can see that there's a problem. That's the kind of thing that I'm talking about with an error check. So there's a couple of different ways of doing an error check. You can either do like equals like that, so true or false. Let me get rid of that there. So true is that's okay, or you could say if this does not equal this. So it's really, really simple. It doesn't need to be complicated. Give me the word error, otherwise give me okay, something like that. That can sometimes give you a false error. So what we usually do is put in some kind of a tolerance for error. So we'd say if the absolute value of one cell minus the other is greater than 1, give me error, otherwise okay. So, and then of course you probably put in some conditional formatting and say that if it's equal to the word okay, you know, we'll make it green or something like that. There we are. So I'd say that's a bit more complicated. Like, I think one cell minus the other is completely all right. But if you did want to allow a tolerance for error, then perhaps you would have the absolute, use an absolute value of the difference between the two. So that's saying that you are allowed to be $1 out and it wouldn't cause a problem. So you could also think about having a summary page. So we often have these error checks right throughout the model, and then one summary at the front that says, you know, this is a summary of all the checks. So that's so a good financial modeler is always looking for opportunities to put in error checks. It's really important. So let's just check in and see if anybody has any. Everybody okay? Any questions? That one. Okay, thanks, Ashok. Okay, cool. All right. So lastly, in terms of best practice, formatting and labeling. So probably one of the most common errors in financial models is just you know, mixing up units. So mixing up like dollars and pounds or euros or something like that, or mixing up kilometers and miles. That's a really common source of error. So always having labeling, like rows and column headings should have 1 unit or 1 type of currency, and just have one column and row headings in there is important to have. So that's pretty much it in terms of my best practices in financial modelling. So just to summarise, always document your assumptions, have consistent formulas, linking, not hard coding. Make sure you only enter it once and have everything linking through to that. Always look for an opportunity to have error checks in your model, and lastly, to use formatting and labeling. And that's pretty much it. It is an absolutely fantastic career to get into. I highly recommend that you discover what financial modelling is and put financial modelling on your CV if you think that you have done any financial modelling as part of your role. Make sure that it's probably one of the #1 technical skills that I would recommend that employers are looking for, is having financial modelling skills. And if you're good at Excel, so I imagine that you're an Excel person if you're coming along to this meetup, then you're already well on the way by having good Excel skills. So just learning a little bit of finance skills, you can put financial modelling on your CV. It is quite lucrative. There is there used to be a model of championships, and yeah, if we have any women financial modelers, we'd love to have you in the group. That's on the meetup group. And but we have some meetups as well, as CRISPO does. We have a couple of virtual meetups coming up soon, so you might find the Power BI one interesting. So that's coming up on the 27th of February. That's the page there, so you can have a look at those there. And this one's a managing spreadsheet risk for women in financial modelling, and then we've got one for the CFO part, for people who are more in finance background. That's a hybrid meetup in Sydney, so we'll be streaming live, so you can still join. So any of those you can just join online, but they might be in the middle of the night. That's the problem. So that's pretty much it from me. So I'll just see if anybody has any questions, anything you'd like me to go over, or what you think. Be sure to follow me on LinkedIn. I post a lot about financial modelling, or you can get in touch with me that's my email address, or you can get in touch with me via LinkedIn. But I'll stick around and see if anybody has any questions.
So my question is there a place for pivot tables in financial modeling?
Oh yeah, good question. Like as I said, with the form, a lot of financial modeling is about formulas. So you change the inputs and the outputs change. And with pivot tables are about large quantities of data. And when something changes with the data, you have to refresh it manually. And so that's probably the reason why I don't like it in financial models, because you don't get that sort of flexible, dynamic thing. But I know we've got the new pivot by formula coming out.
Yeah.
Have you got that one yet? I keep looking for it, but it hasn't come out to me yet.
I think it's still in the beta version. I've not had it yet, so I think it has not been released to the wider public. Yeah. But it looks interesting. It looks very, very, very interesting. I've seen a couple of
so it's like, I think it will give us the functionality of a pivot table, but inside a formula.
Yeah.
So I think that's going to be pretty cool. I can't wait to try that one out. Yeah.
So you don't even use Power Query in your
yes, I do.
modeling? Okay.
I do for the data, to get the data in. So for data models, I probably would use pivot tables more. But when it comes to financial modeling, probably wouldn't use pivot tables. But I certainly use Power Query to get the data into the model and to manipulate the data. But then I just stay when it's a financial model. I just stay within the formulas. Yeah.
Okay. I don't see another question. So my last question is, if you can give us your story, like how did you get to where you are at? Was it by luck? Was it by how did you get to where you are?
Yeah. So I am from Australia, and I went and worked in London, and I started in investment banking in London, and I kind of started working with Excel there. And then when I came back to Australia, I was like, oh, this is really what I want to do, is working in Excel. And I just was working as a financial analyst then, and just building models is kind of, where I got into it. And I started the business as I kind of went out on my own as a consultant to just do financial modeling, because I didn't want to do all the other stuff. Like there's a whole lot of other, as a working in an organization, I didn't want to do all the other things. I just wanted to do the modeling, and so I started as a consultant just to do the modeling. And then I started training as well, which I really enjoy. So I kind of do both the training and the consulting side of it. And I get to travel now, which is great. Well, now that the world has opened up again. So we have I ran a course in Cairo last week, but
Nice.
it was online, but it was in the middle of the night. And then next week I'm heading to London, and then in March I'll be in Saudi Arabia. So I get to travel quite a lot. So for the training, it's just a fantastic career, and a very, very in demand skill to have.
Is there like a certification where you can say you are now a certified financial model?
Yeah, the FMI. So
Okay.
let me just, So I'll give you the link to my course for it. So I'm a certified, what do you call it, approved training provider with the FMI, the Financial Modelling Institute. So I've just put a link in there, and there's a link there that takes you to, so that's for my course. And then you can become a certified financial modeler. So you have to sit an exam for 4 hours and build a financial model from start to finish. So, and then you get a certificate to say that you are a financial modeler.
Nice. What is the one advice that you like to give?
Just no hard coding.
That's a good one.
Just practical. Like actually, if you want to get into financial modeling, start modeling. Like I know I've written a couple of books and I've got training and all that stuff, but you can't learn how to model by reading a book or listening to a podcast or something like that. You've got to actually do it. So try to look for opportunities to build models in your organization. So, even if you don't have an opportunity, you can just build a cash flow forecast for your bank account. Just like practice at using different models. There's some stuff that you can download off the FMI website or from
the free training, and I think these are awesome resources.
Yeah, and LinkedIn, the LinkedIn course that you mentioned.
Yes,
So
the
you can
LinkedIn course, yeah.
Yeah, you can do a trial for that, so that you can do that for free as well, without subscribe. Like you have like a limited, I think it's like 24 hours. You can access it if you just do it the whole. It's like a couple of hours. The course, it doesn't take that long to get through.
Yeah. Oh, thank you for honoring the invitation. Thank you for spending time with us. I'm definitely a smarter person than I was 1.5 hour ago. So if there's someone else with a question, please, you can unmute yourself or you can write it on the chats. Otherwise, I think we are honored to have you here.